Well, here in 2012, the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University has rolled out a new form of recognition. It is the Young Veterinarian of the Year Award, and we're speaking now with the first recipient of that award. He is a veterinarian, class of 2002 from Kansas State, out of Cove, Utah, and we're welcoming now Dr. Cliff Mitchell. Cliff, congratulations on this recognition. First of all, being the initial awardee, it must mean something special to you.
Yeah, I'm greatly honored to receive this.
Tell us about your background. And you did grow up in an animal care environment, didn't you?
I did. My dad is a veterinarian, and so I got to go and enjoy riding with him since I was young. He graduated from Iowa State about the time I was 1. So ever since I can remember, we got to be with him in the practice and enjoying veterinary medicine. I've also always looked up to my grandpa, who was a rancher and a dairyman in Idaho. So our vacations were up at Grandpa's ranch, and in between times, of course, we got to enjoy the veterinary life as well.
What sort of practice was it? Was it a large animal practice, small animal, mixed practice? What?
When my dad moved to Richmond, Utah, when I was 2, it was mostly a large animal practice, including a lot of equine surgeries and a lot of dairies. As the years have gone by, we have seen that there's been more and more small animals. People were willing to spend money on their cats and dogs and have them checked and evaluated. Gradually it has changed so that now we still do a little bit of everything, but it's about 35% large, and the rest is made up of small and exotics. So a little bit of everything.
And you're still practicing with your father, right?
Yes, my father is my partner. He's covering the clinic while I'm out in Kansas for a little bit.
When did you get the bug to be a veterinarian then? How early on?
That all changed a little bit. As I was growing up, I enjoyed the vet practice, and I enjoyed especially the animals, especially cattle. But in high school, I went and worked for a dairyman that was a registered Holstein breeder, and that was what I really loved to do through high school. And at that point, I felt like that's what I was going to do the rest of my life. I expected to be a dairyman and probably have a few beef cattle on the side, kind of like my grandpa had done, but registered animals instead of the grades like my grandpa had had. But after serving a mission in Brazil, I came back, and my grandpa had sold his farm, and so one of the avenues of being a dairyman was not open at that point, and he encouraged me to consider veterinary medicine and to consider coming back and helping my father. At that point, I with visiting with the counselors, they thought that I was well positioned to consider vet school, and so I decided to move ahead, but I was looking at a bovine reproductive practice exclusively. As time went on, that kind of changed. Once I got into vet school, I learned how much fun it was to see the variety, and I learned to really enjoy small animal medicine and surgery. I still enjoy working with cattle. I do a lot of the surgeries that we need to do for the cattle. My father does a lot of the reproductive work with the cows. Most of the equine I see, and I learned to enjoy all of that at Kansas State. I was very fortunate also at Kansas State to work with Dr. Carpenter in the exotics division, and I found out how much fun that was to be able to have an animal that maybe I'd never seen before, but to do a physical and apply what I knew and figure out what was wrong with the animal and how we could help it. I think there's many times that veterinarians are too worried about having not seen a particular animal and aren't willing to help it when it's in need. But there's much that we can all do that way.
It does take a special trait to be able to deal in multiple species, though large and small, exotics, domestic. So not everybody can really do that successfully, can they?
That's true. It does take someone that is willing to learn as much as they can about each species and be flexible to consider a diagnosis in another species that they may not see that condition in routinely.
Cliff, what is your fondest memory of your time in the veterinary medicine school at Kansas State, which was what, from 1998 through 2002?
Yep, that's correct. There are many things that I remember fondly as I look back on my time at Kansas State. One of the things that I always enjoyed, my wife and I got married just before we came to vet school, and she would, through much of vet school, she was working in Throckmorton, and so at lunchtime she would come up to the vet school and we would eat our lunches together and visit about how things were going, and then she'd be back to work and I'd be back to vet school. And that was fun. Also, I will always remember many of the professors here are great mentors of mine. Dr. Cash, I remember him from anatomy lab and how he would just sit down and he could tell you all about every nerve and blood vessel, and he'd be looking at the animal you were dissecting there, and pretty soon he'd say, "Oh, you've got a really nice one here," and get all excited about this nerve or that blood vessel, and sometimes he'd say, "Oh, this doesn't run like it's supposed to. This is an abnormal one. See, this is where it should run." And so that was fun. Neuroanatomy also, he's excellent there. Dr. Weiss was a wonderful help to us as well. My wife was working on a master's, and through some collaboration with his lab, we were able to take some of the microscopic pictures that she needed. Also, Dr. Olson was my counselor through vet school, and he went above and beyond. Dr. Dennis Olson, he went above and beyond the normal role as a counselor. He always tried to make sure that as a family we were taken care of, and that we felt welcomed, and that things went smoothly for us. Dr. Carpenter was another big one. He still, when we see him, he still remembers my time on the exotics rotation, and he's always asking about the girls and how they're doing, and so many wonderful faculty and staff that made it possible to graduate through the vet school. And we all know that vet school is a tough course, and there's much to learn, but there were many that helped along the way and made it much easier.
You are still very early on in your career. Still, you are proving to be a leader in the veterinary medicine field in your home state of Utah. You're the president-elect of the Utah Veterinary Medicine Association, if that's not correct. So what are your aspirations from here?
Well, I feel like each of us has a responsibility, especially right now, to be involved. Veterinary medicine is at a turning point right now where we have many challenges that we face. The average school debt of graduates now is about 5 times higher than what it was when I graduated just 10 years ago. But that average starting salary is still almost the same. So I see that in the future we are going to need to find ways to make it easier on these students so they don't have to take as much debt. We're going to need to also have a focus before they get to vet school, teaching them what's involved with taking that much debt so that they aren't surprised when they get out of vet school and find that their employment options are restricted because of that. Next January, I will be the president of the UVMA, and I'll be in that position for 2 years. We are in the process of helping Utah State has started a 2+2 program, and we're in the process of seeing how that will fit into the state Veterinary Medical Association, and seeing what we can do to make things easier for those students. That 2+2 program will have 30 students that will start out, and then they can finish at Washington State, or they can also transfer to other schools. I know here at Kansas State we had several vet students that transferred in partway through as we were going along, and I imagine as the students through the USU program come along, some of them may also transfer to Kansas or Colorado or wherever their focus is strongest. We know that anything we can do to decrease the amount of debt for these students will be helpful.
The challenges are plentiful, but by the same token, your outlook on the profession remains bright?
Yes, I think there are many opportunities in the profession. Sometimes I think there are many areas of the profession that we have, the recruiting has not been balanced enough for some of the areas. An example would be rural America. I don't feel like there's been enough, the shift towards the highest GPAs and the highest test scores has maybe favored some that have not had to put in the time that some of the rural students do in order to make it through school. I know there are some students that are working farms as they're going through undergraduate and that sort of thing. So it'll be interesting as we move ahead to see if we can balance that. I know there are students out there that would like to come back and work in rural America, and certainly as there are programs available to help with school debt and programs available to make it a little bit easier getting started, I think the transition will be easier for the the state of Utah is in a similar situation to the state of Kansas. Out in rural Kansas and rural Utah, there are many older practitioners that would like to sell their practice or consider retiring or at least slowing down, but many of them don't have good applicants available that can come and are willing to come and be on call all the time, and there's always a trade-off. I'm in a rural practice right now, and there isn't an emergency clinic that you just send all emergencies to. Many of my classmates at 5 o'clock at night, they're done. They just turn on the answering machine and send them to the emergency clinic. But for us, there is a great quality of life aspect where we are able to live in the country and raise our little hobby farm and hopefully raise some good kids in the process. And I think that's definitely a blessing. It's something that sometimes they get to go in on the emergencies as well, and that makes their day too. Also, I think there are areas in veterinary medicine, areas of specialty like public health or some of the board certifications, that many of those are underrepresented and underfilled. I'm excited about Kansas State and the future for Kansas State's public health programs. They're starting the Masters of Public Health in conjunction with the DVM. I think that'll be wonderful. That will be just the background that many of these young vet students need to go into that type of veterinary career. I hope that those students will also do some practice along the way, because I do feel like that strengthens the public health focus to have that experience and practice as well. So I think there's a lot of exciting opportunities in the future. We'll just have to see if we are able to prepare the students in the way they need to be to meet those opportunities.
Well, Cliff, you are the first ever recipient of the Young Veterinarian of the Year Award from your alma mater. In closing, what does that recognition signify to you?
It's a great honor. I hope it can be an inspiration to other young veterinarians as they look to the future, and as I saw the recipients of the other awards that were awarded, certainly there are a lot of opportunities ahead. I feel like I'm very early in the process, but I know that there's many things that I can do in the future that can be exciting, and ways to expand the horizon there.
Well, your career is rolling at a very brisk pace already, and you've so much more to go. So the best of luck as you pursue all of it in the years ahead, and congratulations on this recognition.
Thank you.
He is the recipient of the first and 2012 Young Veterinarian of the Year Award from the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University, Dr. Cliff Mitchell of Cove, Utah, a graduate class of 2002.